Hello chess friends and welcome to Zadov's chess channel and welcome to the Lindores Abbey Rapid challenge in 2020. So we are already in round 7, it is young Krzysztof Duda against Magnus Carlsen. Great things happened in this tournament, great surprises. We had in round 5 a really great surprise. Yu Youngie won the game against Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen lost his first place. Now Hikaru Nakamura is in the lead, and I'm a little bit glad, I have to admit it, because I always considered Hikaru to be sort of a top 3 player. I really like his style, his aggressive style. He's sort of romantic in chess, so that's why I would love to that Hikaru wins this tournament. Magnus has now won many tournaments. If I think it would be a great thing if Hikaru makes it till the end. As I said, Hikaru is playing really great. Really had some great attacking performances in this tournament. And Magnus, as I said, has to win now this game against young Krzysztof Duda in order to catch up with Hikaru, because I don't think that Hikaru will lose games in the future. So let's see now what happened between the two top grandmasters, young Krzysztof Duda and Magnus Carlsen. So what to say about young Krzysztof Duda? He's also a talented, I think, chess player. He's maybe top 10 material in the near future. So again, I wish him also all of the best. Here's my Slavic brother, so that's why I would really also love to see him maybe in the top 10 in the future. So let's see now the game. We have c4 by young Krzysztof Duda. We have e5. Knight to c3, so far the English opening, and Magnus responded with the move knight to f6. Knight to f3, we have knight to c6, the 4 knights variation, and now e3. So most of the times you see d3 is played, then followed with g3. Here after e3, Magnus plays the move bishop to b4, and I really liked this Hikaru's variation, sort of. It's of course not Hikaru Nakamura's line, but Hikaru is using most of the times this move d5, immediately cracking the position in the center, and after knight to d5 he plays most often this move knight to b6, is releasing the pressure in the center. Here Magnus, of course, I mentioned that in my previous videos that Magnus Carlsen is trying now, at least it seems to me so, that he's trying to complicate things. So he played bishop to b4, a more aggressive line. Here queen to c2 by Duda, not allowing here after bishop takes c3. Of course we want to recapture with the queen, not allowing some double pawn situations here. So very important move here. Castling played by Carlsen, and now we have knight to d5. If you take knight takes d5, you see then you get c takes d5. You have to move the knight somewhere, maybe here to knight to e7, and then the main theory would be sort of bishop to d3, aiming against this h7, h6. Maybe black has sort of a move f5. Black would have counterplays here, but still I really like this diagonal, and one of the other attacking possibilities is maybe to go somewhere with the bishop and then place our rook on the c file and attacking here this c7 weaken. So that's why here after the move knight to d5, Magnus played rook to e8, trying to play much more freely maybe with this knight, because this pawn could be endangered. He wants maybe to attack further somehow. Maybe knight to e7, knight to g6 would be sort of a path, but first of all we have to secure our e5 pawn. But here Duda plays a very interesting idea. It's really sort of, it's not really a novelty in chess, but it's really, I think, now the most played move in this particular line. It was played by Anatoly Karpov. It was played by really the top grandmasters also from the last century. But still, I think this move is a little bit forgotten in this top grandmaster level. So here Duda pulled off really some romantics here. Queen to f5, really immediately challenging this knight on f6. The main idea is a simple idea to create weaknesses around black's king. What to do? Again, if you try knight takes d5, c takes d5, again you saw these problems. Basically, you cannot do better. If you try bishop to e7 to retreat, then I think we can even simply take out the bishop and continue the game with the bishop pair. So here d6 played by Magnus, knight takes f6, we have g takes f6 and queen to h5. So what we have here now is a weakened pawn structure in front of black's king, but still this is playable for black, as now these pawns are rolling. F5, e4, f4 is even a possibility. So black didn't make a mistake so far, so it's not a problem, but still these weaknesses could be maybe used in continuation of white here, so white can maybe exploit these weaknesses. In the game, Magnus tried the move d5. I think e4 is maybe much better here than this move d5. I think this was maybe the first inaccuracy by Magnus Carlsen. e4 forces now Duda to do something with the knight. But okay, wherever the knight goes, it doesn't even matter. The main attacking possibility now for black here is to maybe attack here this backward pawn. Maybe somehow get something here on d3, which is the main weakness in white's position. Maybe trying sort of a knight outpost on d3 would be a cool idea. It would be, I think, something that would white really bother here. That's why I think this rook to e8 is a good move, but you have to support, you have to push this pawn on e4 in order to make something happen. Here Magnus tried a d5, which is of course also a breakthrough, but it's opening to position too much. I think as I said, we have still this weakness on f6, and also here maybe the weakness on f5. So the main weaknesses in the position are of course a weak square on and a weak pawn. So now after the move d5, here young Krzysztof Duda played simply a3, kicking away the bishop to f8, and now a very interesting idea, bishop to d3. It's still not novelty in chess. This move order has been played many times in chess history. But still, it's a very aggressive idea, I think, by the young Krzysztof Duda to attack the world champion like this. Magnus played e4. It seems that white is losing a piece, but it's really not a problem because we have c takes d4 after e takes d3. Of course, Duda took the knight, d takes c6, and we have now b takes c6. So, okay, let's now stop here a little bit and evaluate the position. I really don't like black's position, although the evaluation here is equal. It's not a problem. Here white doesn't have anymore the bishop pair. Black has, of course, the advantage of the bishop pair. But the main idea of white here is now to create statics in the game. So how to do that? I think white's idea here is much more clearer. Because if you want to attack here from from black's perspective, then you have to always create some dynamics. Then you have to really create some tactics. Then you have really to create enormous pressure on against your opponent. I think young Krzysztof Duda, to simplify the position, to maybe create, as I said, some statics, to create immobile pawn structures, it's much more easier. So you see, he played the move b4, simply. The main idea sort of would be somehow, if you could just imagine now this position, maybe to get rid of this bishop somehow, trading off the dark square bishops, and maybe cement our knight here on c5. If, for instance, black manages to do that without, of course, further loss of material, it would be a great positional game here for white. Black's bishop would be really out of game. White light square bishop wouldn't have great diagonals, wouldn't have great attacking possibilities. Or maybe what white could also do is maybe to cement the knight on d4 after a trade of dark square bishops. So still, I think, as I said, white's idea to continue here is much more clearer, to create sort of a blockade, than maybe black's idea to simply create tactics. So in a fast time format, it's really better to play more positional than more tactical. And I had some arguments with many players in one of my conversations with some other chess players. I mentioned that a blitz player is a much more a positional player is a much better blitz player than a tactician. So so I think when you can find good positional ideas in chess, that you can really perform better in a faster time format. Here after the move b4, the idea comes immediately by young Krzysztof Duda to create sort of blocking system. After the move a5, okay, Magnus is trying, of course, to open the a file. It's not a problem because we have here bishop to b2, and maybe Magnus should have simply taken a takes b4. After a takes b4, the continuation would be maybe here rook takes a1, bishop takes a1, bishop takes b4. But still, again, I really like more white's position, because again we could simply maybe try to cement our knight somewhere on c3, attacking maybe here this f6 weakness. It's really hard to include these bishops into the game now. Even I think castling is a good choice here, simply maybe trying here knight to d4. As I said, here white has more and more flexibility in the game. After this move bishop to b2, Magnus tried rook to e4. So the idea behind this move is, of course, to play rook to bishop to g4, attacking the knight and maybe create here also a double pawn structure in front of white's king. But here young Krzysztof Duda gets out of this mess, plays knight to d4, very important move, and now we have the mistake by Magnus Carlsen. I think it's the move queen to d5. Forcing the trades of queens is not good here because, as I said, black's idea is to create a dynamic position, is to create attacking possibilities, is to create tactics, open diagonals for the bishops, of creating maybe some bishop and queen batteries. Here after the move queen to d5, this is a great move for young Krzysztof Duda because now he is simplifying the position with queen to d5. So after c takes d5, okay, you still have the bishop here, but this is really a more simplified position. This is really not such a great in a dynamic position here for black. The tension I think is a little bit splashed here after the move c takes d5, and Jan plays simply f3, kicking with the rook. And here comes, I think, a new mistake by Magnus Carlsen, rook to e8, which wasn't the best of moves. Rook to e7 is better. You have to protect your c7 pawn. So this moment Jan uses immediately with the move knight to b5, attacking the c7 weakness, and you see Magnus loses another tempo with the move rook to e7. So these are these tiny little things in chess. Of course, Magnus is making mistakes also. Rook to e7, and now we see bishop to f6, attacking the rook, rook to d7, and now king to f2. Look at this pawn structure of blacks. It's not good. Again, if you try 8x b4, 8x b4, the rooks are connected, not a problem. You can take maybe a pawn, but still this weakness, d5, d3, still the c7 weakness is also something that you have to worry about. In the game, bishop to a6 played by Magnus, but not a problem. We still have this very powerful square for the knight. As I said, you see how it's easier for white to find statics here in the game to create really a blocking system. Knight to d4, very important move, cementing our knight, and we have bishop to c4, also cementing the bishop. But that's not the way how you want to use your bishop. This bishop is basically used only as a part of the pawn chain here, so not a problem here for young Krzysztof Duda. He played simply rook to b1. We have rook to a6, and now bishop to e5, attacking the c7. We have f6, now b5, counterplay here by young Krzysztof Duda, and now rook to b6, bishop to f4, a4, we have g4. Here young Krzysztof Duda is not losing tempos now. He's trying to get something out of here because he has now a 3 versus 2 situation. So here it's a time to create maybe a pass pawn situation. In the game, bishop to c5, and now we have h4, king to f7, and now king to g3, bishop takes d4, and still, although this is opposite color bishop game, but it's still a better position for white because we have, as I said, here a situation in which we can create maybe a pass pawn. After the move bishop takes b5, here young Krzysztof Duda simply played rook to b4. After rook to e7, we simply double up the rooks on the b file, and now bishop to c4 had to be played, and now after trades of rooks the position is much more simplified. Now you see the problem of blacks here is that all of these pawns are on dark squares, so you cannot attack these pawns with some bishops, so you cannot attack it also with the rook. The rook is too far away from the action. If you try something like rook to e2, we can always cover this pawn and maybe even lock the rook. So here Magnus, I think, can only hope for a draw if Duda makes a mistake. Here bishop to b3 was played, and now bishop to d6. We have rook to d7, and now simply, as I said, creating our pass pawn with the move f4. And the problem is that Magnus' bishop is also far away from the action. As I said, it's only used as a defender of the pawns. We have f5, g5 simply passing through. Now we want to move these pawns further. Bishop to d1, and now bishop to c5. We have king to g7, and now simply king to f2. We want, of course, to kick away the bishop somehow. Maybe here go with our king, attacking also this d3 weakness. In the game, rook to d8 was played, rook to b7. We have a rook to g6, rook to e7, trying maybe to lift our rook, or maybe rook to e6 ideas, because there is one problem. This king can never go here to h5, because then you get rook to e6, maybe rook to h6, some checkmate threats followed with king to g3. So here Magnus tried rook to b8, tried to play much more actively with his rook, but now comes this idea rook to e6, rook to h5, and now king to g3, and Magnus ran into checkmate. And now basically it's nothing. There's nothing you can do. You cannot prolong the game. You can maybe play something like dubious, like rook to b6, but still it's checkmate. So I think it was a great game by young Krzysztof Duda. Magnus made, I think, this strategical inaccuracies here with the move queen to d5, simplifying the position, releasing the pressure. As I said, it was really a great move for Duda. Queen to d5, c takes d5. Now it's really a one-way ticket here for white. It's a much better position here for white. So young Krzysztof Duda, I think he deserves the win. And this is now Magnus' second loss. He's now far away from Hikaru Nakamura. Still 4 more rounds to play, and still more games to play, of course. But I think how Hikaru is playing now, that this is simply his tournament. Magnus had his win in this invitational tournament. As I said, it would be a cool thing for me if Hikaru maybe takes the win home. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a great positional game by young Krzysztof Duda. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games from this tournament. Here are the links, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.